Shall I take this one? Well, I'm going to introduce you to our next presenter, who is Christiane. I hope I'm saying this correctly. Schuler. And
Okay.
Christiane, I'm excited to hear about your language of spaces. So you're going to introduce yourself a little bit more. So now I'm just going to hand over. And if you want to share screen right now to share your presentation, please go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Is my background showing back to front or is it correct?
Back to front.
Yeah, that's always the same. I never manage, so I'll just let it be. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh my God, this has been so beautiful listening to these last presentations. And let me just go and do this. And so my challenge here now is coming from this really beautiful big pictures that we've been having here to shift back into what I'm going to be talking about today as the language of spaces as a approach and a methodology that is very focused on organization. But before that, let me just quickly, just a few words about me. So something that has been holding me very much here is that dream that all human endeavors are in service to life. And when I say life, I mean all life. And that is what brings me and has brought me to self-organization. And I'll say a little bit more about that. So I've been an entrepreneur since 1990. Always sort of curiosity is my main driver. And then I've been working internationally with organizations for most of those three over 2 decades now. Very much anchored in systems theory and systemic organizations and leadership development until I realized that something was amiss, and I went into a purpose quest. And what came up was the unification of love and power, which was a huge overwhelm at first, but it actually was just the overwhelm was just a phase of getting to understand how I could manifest that in a continuum of the work that I was already doing, which brought me into a deep specialization into the question of self-organization, and with that learning what that means for individuals and collectives when shifting into this new way of doing work together. And so the manifestation up to today, the sort of the core ways of manifesting my purpose in my work was number one, developing the language of spaces approach, and then being co-founder of a few organizations, starting with ENCODE and what now has grown into the PowerShift ecosystem. And in 1922, I published my book, New Stories of Love, Power, and Purpose, with the subtitle, A Global Invitation to Experiment with the Unknown, which really is a sort of a concise writing about the learnings of what that shift into doing work in a different way, in a self-organized way, really means, and all the triggers, that the challenges that brings up for us as individuals and as collectives. And so the language of spaces is what I'm going to be talking about today. And in that sense, I would like to start by saying what it's not that I didn't put that on the slides, but listening to what everything that we've been hearing here, those beautiful things, I would like to offer a definition of why self-organization, what it is, and why I believe it is so important. And I define self-organization as the evolutionary organizing principle of the universe. So when we talk about, there's so many words out there, self-organization, self-management, teal, blah, blah, and we all talk of different things, and there is no right or wrong. But for me, it is really important to say that this is how I understand self-organization, and that translates into all aspects of our lives. And for me and my work, how does that translate into how we as individuals organize ourselves around something that is important to us and that we want to bring into the world? And that is then we understand self-organization as mirroring these principles of the evolutionary organizing principles in the universe in the way we do our work together. And so the language of spaces approach is designed to illuminate what it means to do that. And one of the major learnings, I'm kind of trying to shift my view here. Okay, there we are. Is that when we shift from, and Marilyn, you showed that on your map from, the structures, when do we move from a linear understanding of organizations into a more holistic, holarchic understanding of organizations, shifting from what is, when we talk spiral dynamics, from orange into green and then up into second tier. And I think there is a huge desire in the world. It is a growing desire, and it has been there for decades now, to go through that shift. And all the challenges show up, because it is such a foundational mindset shift, and invites her in everything, in all the systems that humanity has created for its own survival. And there is a lot of that we are invited to let go of in order to be able to shift into these other collaborative dynamics. And language of spaces is a specific methodology and approach to address that journey. And the goals of the methodology and of the approach is to understand tensions and to understand how we can transform what we define as concerns, tensions, problems, whatever word you want to use with it, to understand how we can transform those into actual opportunities for evolutionary growth. It enables us to enhance our decision-making in the context of distributed authority systems. And one thing, and that is often challenging when we map the integral map with this type of work, it is distinguishing or differentiating personal and organizational dynamics, because in my perspective, this has been extremely useful to understand this differentiation. And then we get more clarity on what is actual personal and what is organizational, which actually supports us in cultivating an incredibly beautiful cultural environment. So my words are using care, concern, or creating care, concern, and compassion. And at the same time, it supports professional growth. And it's also where are we here? So to the format. So the language of spaces approach as a whole, there are a number of formats I'm going to talk about, but it starts with a 90 to 120 minute facilitated process that takes you through a deep self-reflection and introspection through various perspectives. And one of the deep learnings of language of spaces is to actually understand differentiating perspectives doesn't separate them, but it just allows us to break the complexity. I would call it the simplicity on the other side of complexity of what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And the specific 4 perspectives that we work with are operational, governance, we and I. So operational space, governance space, we space, and I space. And space here is a metaphor for a specific perspective. And as we go through these, this differentiation, we can go back to integral saying differentiation and integration. We differentiate and see certain aspects, learn from them, and then integrate them as we deal with it. And to explain the language of spaces process, I would like to show you a little video, because I think that this will bring, let me see, I have to share the screen. So here we go.
Hello, and welcome to the world of language of spaces. In this video, we're excited to introduce you to the core process of the language of spaces approach. This unique process empowers you to discover the full power and beauty of your evolutionary tensions. Through skillful guidance in reflection and introspection, you'll gain fresh insights and understanding of both organizational and social dynamics within a self-organized and self-managed context. What you see here is an overview of the contexts and spaces we work with in the language of spaces approach. The terms context and space are key. They serve as metaphors for specific perspectives, viewpoints we adopt when processing tensions. This approach involves examining a single tension from multiple angles, enriching and deepening our understanding and response to it. Initially, we focus on understanding the high-level differentiation between two contexts. The right field represents the organization context, encompassing the system of structures and processes within which work is done to serve the enterprise's purpose. On the left is the people context, the bounded realm of the social system, the cradle of culture, shared values, beliefs, and relationships with each other and ourselves. Grasping our tensions from these two distinct perspectives offers a glimpse into the value created by the language of spaces. With this foundational understanding, you are now ready to explore the more detailed perspectives of the four spaces: operational, governance, we, and I spaces. Let's embark on a journey, one that you can eventually undertake independently with some practice and a printed version of the language of spaces reflection board. Imagine this board laid out on the floor before you. With expert guidance, you first clarify the tension you wish to process. The yellow circle at the center now symbolizes this tension, marking the start of your journey through the spaces, a reflective exploration of all relevant perspectives to understand every aspect of your tension that needs clarification and resolution. Your journey begins in operational space, focusing solely on the operational aspects of your tension. The guided process assists you in clarifying all relevant operational work concerns, anything from ongoing projects, activities like newsletter writing, social media management, financial processes, meetings, software development, to maintaining spaces or buildings, using shared tech tools, production, or client service delivery. This perspective immerses you in the midst of operational activities, shedding light on the aspects crucial for your tension. At the end of this reflection, you're invited to identify and note down concrete, actionable steps to address and resolve the operational aspects of your tension. Now it's time to transition to governance space, shifting your focus from the internal operational view to an external perspective, observing the organization's structures and processes. Reflecting in this space brings clarity to the governance-related aspects of your tension. These may arise from ambiguities in role definitions, accountabilities, decision-making processes, unclear policies, etc. Here, you contemplate everything necessary to create the right conditions and structures within which the operational work, previously reflected upon, can be effectively carried out. At the end of your reflection in governance space, you'll again be invited to define and note down actionable steps to move the governance aspects of your tension towards resolution. Having completed your reflections in the governance space, you're now ready for a significant shift in perspective. You'll transition from the organization context to the people context. This means setting aside operational and governance considerations to focus solely on the dynamics within the people context. Your first step in the people context is entering the we space. Here, you reflect on the relational aspects contributing to your tension. This includes examining expectations around behaviors, disappointments from unmet expectations towards others, your assumptions about others, their possible expectations of you, communication patterns related to your tension, shared values and beliefs, and the role of trust, safety, and vulnerability in creating a supportive and empowering environment. Initially, differentiating work dynamics from relational dynamics can be challenging, but the process skillfully facilitates this distinction. Over a decade of experience has shown that this differentiation leads to a profound improvement in the quality of relationships within the collective. After identifying actionable steps to address the we aspects of your tension, you move to the final perspective, the I space. In the I space, you engage in a self-reflective dialogue, exploring your emotional responses and potential behavioral and thought patterns contributing to the tension. Every tension has an I aspect. It's what makes us aware of the tension in the first place. Reflecting on these aspects offers valuable insights into our self-leadership and inner resources, which we might not even realize we possess. As with the previous spaces, you conclude your reflection in the I space by pinpointing practical steps to address the I aspects of your tension, moving them towards a resolution. With this, you are ready to step out of the I space, which also marks the completion of this reflective journey. With the actionable steps you've identified in each space, you now have a clear path to integrate what you have learned into meaningful outcomes for yourself, your team, and the organization. This exploration isn't just about understanding each space in isolation. It's about recognizing their interconnectivity and how they collectively influence your approach. The process is designed to be iterative and reflective, ensuring that, while you focus on one space, the insights and learnings from the others are not lost, but integrated into a comprehensive understanding of how to harness the full power and beauty of your evolutionary tensions. Visit us at languageofspaces.org to explore the various ways in which Language of Spaces can support you, your team, and your entire enterprise in thriving with self-organization. You will also...
Okay, I'm going to stop here. Not to make that too much. Thank you so much. Let me go back to my slides. So, as we just heard in the video, so there's a number of formats in which the language of spaces approach can be translated, not just individual, but also in a team, in an entire organization, seeing a full analysis of the capacities for working in a self-organized way, or to certify people to actually facilitate the process, which is a 17-week journey, because it's as simple as it sounds. Holding space for that kind of reflection really needs a whole lot of knowledge, of experience, and of skill. So, who is the target audience? Again, from my work's perspective, self-organization is a major driver for what is needed in the world right now. And so the target audience is individuals, teams, and entire organizations that are concerned by this journey from moving into eventually second-tier organizing, and letting go of the very conventional and broadly held management hierarchy dynamics to a decentralized, self-organized system of distributed authority. And so no matter whether people are just trying to discover how to do that, or are already pretty far ahead in this program, the one thing that always holds back flowing evolutionary development is the fact that tensions are not processed. And tensions are not processed because very often the complexity of tensions doesn't give people a safe sense of moving forward. And this is precisely what Language of Spaces addresses. So, okay, I'm gonna put up there. So, what are the goals that we generally that we try to achieve? Or let me start with the outcomes first. The big topic that always comes up in these shifts is the relationship to power, and that of course comes to, how do I define power? How do I experience power? And here is a reference to Marilyn Hamilton's work here. Marilyn, it's moving through a development from an understanding of power over to power with, into power as, where power is a natural phenomenon that is there available to everybody. And the ideal outcome is to enable that shift on a broader scale. The other ideal outcome is to shift the general understanding of self-organization and enhancing the spread of that in the world, as this is one of the major drivers for me also to spread that and to enable that. Also experiencing how empowerment comes from within through that differentiated perspective taking process. We break down into smaller steps, and we have clearer choices of acting on what we deem as necessary, which is highly empowering. And last, but in no way least, manifesting our work in service to all life. Over the last 10 years, where I and others have facilitated literally hundreds and hundreds of processes, from that we've developed a concise list of patterns that show up when dealing with problems, concerns, and tensions. And on those, of course, we identified those patterns which are useful and that are not so useful. Of course, they are to be seen on a continuum. And based on this, we can analyze the strengths and also the learning opportunities of individuals who are on that journey, and also of teams and of entire organization. And with having done that, we can recommend practices. And that, of course, is a big developmental topic, as everybody here certainly will understand. What are the requisite practices and tools that can support our learning and our development in a self-organized context? How can Living Cities Earth support this work? So what Language of Spaces begins with an individual process to work on something that is highly relevant to me. So book online sessions with me to get a personal and a really for every individual relevant experience of the core process. I'm really happy to open possibilities up for LCE founding members, because it is really, this is very, I'm talking theoretical, but I know once being in that actual experience of that process makes it crystal clear. Recommend to other people to reach out. That will certainly help spread it. And maybe we can create opportunities together for hosting online sessions, such as self-organization in theory and practice, is where I can lay out the groundwork, or also going into Language of Spaces introduction. And I'm super excited about an online tool that I have set my intention. This is what's going to happen. I want to develop, and I have started already doing that, an AI-powered online tool to help the scaling of the Language of Spaces. And that really is super exciting. So thank you for that. And I don't know how I'm doing time-wise, but I think I am in time. And I am really excited and looking forward to questions.
And I've got my hand up and very excited to ask my question. Christiane, actually, you told me about this before, and it was so great that I got to see it a little bit more in its entirety, and very exciting stuff, because it's so overlapping with a lot of my own work, and I see very clearly with the work of Marilyn and Marina, and the 4 areas we address, all those kind of things. And so intuitively in my own life, I've been exercising that. So for others listening to this, I would say, it changes everything when you start to use this tool. And my question that I have for you, Christiane, is, so you started in the green block and moved your way around. And the question I have is, do you see that as a process that has to be followed from the green and around, or is it a non-linear process that can really be, tackled from any aspect of this as the initiation of that kind of addressing of a tension?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really important question. So over the 10 or 12 years, I have experimented with all different ways of doing that, from allowing my client to choose where to want to start, to starting in individual space. And it has shown that the process, in order to reach the results that are so useful, that sequence is important. And I can also tell you why, because processing organizational stuff is kind of easy when you have clarity on structures and processes, and you can easily stick to them. What makes it difficult are the inter and intrapersonal dynamics. And because in conventional organizations, those dynamics, or in most organizations, those are still completely intertwined and create a level of complexity. So that stops people from processing them. When you get the organizational stuff out of the way, this is like pulling away a curtain, and now it's you and I, truly you and I. And I cannot hide behind my role. I cannot hide behind whatever goes on in our work. Those are the things that we've already reflected on. And that's what makes the difference in the actual quality that you then build. If you start in I space, there's always the finger pointing of, well, if it weren't the organization, blah, 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 that kind of thing. But we resolve that first in a very, very clear, structured way. And then we come, so look at me, you come to the thing that's really important, right?
Thank you for that, Christiane. I think what I'm also thinking about is your application. You gave a very specific kind of what could be the target audiences, but I see it very much as a tool that can also really be used for individuals in all of our interpersonal relationships. And so I think maybe there is where it might start in a different place, but I see why organizationally it would start there. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And you mentioned stuff about, co-creating with the AI, but, aspect of what you're doing. And I'd very much like to talk to you. There's some of our other co-founders like Yuri Noimir and these other ones who are genuinely moving forward in the AI space and all of this kind of stuff, which would be a great match for what you're doing. Thank you.
Oh my God, that's exciting. Thank you. I think, Marilyn, you have your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Christiane. I just had more or less a comment that I was delighted to see how you were describing your language of spaces, because it reminded me a lot of the process I use within the Lead Alive for finding the maps in yourself. So actually getting people to physically walk through the spaces that you were just defining there. So that really felt really nice and resonant. And also how you had laid out the I, we, and the behaviors governance is like the place caring and the place making. So just lots of resonance. So I think we might be having a little chat about maybe whether we can integrate some of this into the course.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really exciting. I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for today.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Christiane, for that. That was beautiful, and I enjoyed it so much. In fact, I've been having fun listening to everybody because it's this Emergathon. I think and it helps us to see each other's work in such a beautiful way for us to do that mesh working as we continue to grow as an organization. And with that, I'm going to pass this stick to my wonderful co-host, Alexei Grashenko, who will take the next part in introducing.